Let's go for it!
A little bit of Ween, doing my favorite, one of my favorites, I should say, pork roll, egg and cheese, old school stuff from Ween, going all the way back to their album The Pod. I caught Ween on September 1st, a place called the Pinewood Bowl Amphitheater in Lincoln, and this was the first time I'd seen them since 2008. I looked it up. I thought it was more recent than that, like more like 2010 or 2011, but turns out when they last played at the Stir Concert Cove in Council Bluffs, Iowa, was July 20th, 2008. So it had been 9 years since I'd seen Ween before. Now, about half of that time they were broken up because they did break up in 2010 or 2011. So I got to the show pretty early. Again, I went with one of the promoters, so we went down there early, kind of went backstage. As we were pulling up, we parked, and then as we were walking into the backstage, what was cool was that Ween was sound checking at the time, and they were doing Kashmir by Led Zeppelin. And my first instinct was to like run over there with my camera and try and get to record them doing it, because they didn't do it in the set. But I mean, that would have been completely uncool for me to walk up there while they're sound checking and try and film them or something. That would have been stupid. So couldn't do it. But just suffice to say, they do know how to play Kashmir, and they do play it pretty awesome. The show was really, really good, but it was a different type of Ween show than I had ever seen before. When I saw them in 2008, they were still at the craziness, the drugs, the drinking, the wildness, or whatever, and their set reflected a lot of that, basically. I mean, it was a lot of like, Voodoo Lady, and they did Buckingham Green, and they did Bananas and Blow, and they did, all of these kinds of songs, Fat Lenny, and they did Mr. Richard Smoker, and some of these others. And a lot of those songs weren't done this time. I would say it was a much, much more mellow set this time from Ween than they had done in the past. Of course, they still did a lot of hits, I Can't Put My Finger on It. They did stuff like, Tender Situation, The Stallion Part 3, Back to Bassum. for the most part, it was a decidedly mellower set. You know, I'm chalking that up to sort of, Gene Aaron Freeman's sobriety. I don't know if that's the case. It could just be they're older. It could just be they felt like playing that stuff that night. You know, Ween is a pretty unorthodox band, so it's not like there's a specific reason for everything. But knowing that there is at least one of the Ween brothers is a sober person, perhaps this just has something to do with the songs that he wants to do. But so, you know, as any Ween fan knows, the recorded Ween experience and the live Ween experience are totally different. The band is still exceptional. I mean, really, really great. Same guys they've had for 20 years pretty much. Claude Coleman on the drums, Dave something or other, I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his name, on bass. But fantastic band. You know, Ween is different now, but it's not like I would say, well, if you didn't get to see them in the old days, don't go see them. They're still phenomenal. I mean, they play amazingly well. And don't let the fact that a bunch of hippies and jam music fans have glommed onto Ween as though they're one of their own, or though they're like, you know, Sonic cousins to Fish or the Grateful Dead or something. They're not, okay? Yeah, the band can wail, they can jam, but they're not jam music. I guess I don't really care. I used to get kind of mad at the thought that, you know, all of these sort of jam fans were sort of adopting Ween, but the fact is that's given them a live career for the past 15 years that 20 years that they might not have otherwise had, because alternative music fans are very fickle and they give up on people awfully quickly. Unfortunate. It's an unfortunate trait of people who like the same kind of music that I do. You know, I had mentioned in an earlier video that I intended to go see X the other when they came here to Omaha, and what I was going to try and do ahead of time was Twin Peaks was opening for Spoon at a different venue across town. I was going to try and go to see Twin Peaks, then go see skip Spoon, unfortunately, then go catch X. Unfortunately, I found out X was starting at 9 o'clock. Twin Peaks wasn't going to hit the stage until 8:30, so there's no way I could have seen more than 2 minutes of Twin Peaks before I drove, had to drive all the way across town to catch the other set. So it was sort of pointless, unfortunately. But I got to the waiting room to catch X, and man, they were worth the wait. I've been an X fan probably casually in the 80s and in the early 90s. I kind of got into them a lot more in the mid to late 90s, which was sort of past their period. You know, they were really an 80s band into the early 90s. They broke up, they got back together, and they don't really make new music anymore. They just kind of play the old stuff, and that's fine. You know, they're celebrating the 40th anniversary as a band, and they were playing the classics, you know, stuff from their earlier records, stuff like, you know, White Girl and Johnny Hit and Run Pauline, Los Angeles. They played just amazingly well. The crowd was excellent. It was a Monday night, and you know, X is a band whose appeal is mostly to older people, unfortunately. I mean, you young punk rockers don't seem to give a shit about the classics anymore if they're still around. Well, X is still around, and to me, it's just as big a deal as if you were seeing the Sex Pistols or the Ramones or whatever. Like, they're that in the upper echelon of the punk rock legend. So this was my first time seeing them live. I was hoping they were going to be good, but I was really just sort of putting it in my little, as an asterisk in my rock almanac that, you know, or I don't know, almanac. But anyways, in my rock book, that I saw the band X because I've liked this band for a really long time. Didn't need to make any apologies for it whatsoever. They were in amazing form. They sounded great. They looked great. You know, as far as who wins the award for Asshole of the Night, that would be me, okay? Because it was pretty crowded, and I was on the side of this part of the stage facing where John Doe was, and I could see over where Billy Zoom, the lead guitar player, was on the opposite side, and I could see that he was sitting on a stool for almost the entirety of the set. And I was just kind of like, well, I know he's older, but why does he have to sit there on the stool? Like, man, that's kind of lame. You know, he can't rest up beforehand, stand up for 75 minutes, an hour and a half, whatever. And that was the posture I sort of took. He played amazing. So I'm talking to a friend of mine after the show, and he was just like, man, they were great, weren't they? And I was like, yeah, Billy Zoom sounded fucking awesome, you know? He was so good, but why is he sitting in the stool? What a jerk, you know? And then the guy goes, well, he just survived pancreatic cancer. He's lucky to be alive, you know? The fact that he's here at all. And I was just like, oh, okay, I'm the asshole. Sorry, I didn't know that. He could sit still if he wants to. He could sit there on a lazy boy in recline position and play. Don't care. If you're going to play that good, okay, and you're just coming off almost dying from cancer, then fuck me. Okay, sorry, I didn't know. I mean, but he plays amazing. Billy Zoom. Long live Billy Zoom. I mean, my favorite song by X is probably White Girl, because I just totally don't understand where it's coming from. I think it's so awesome. The chorus of she's a white girl. And they played it, of course. It was awesome. hope you get the chance to see X on this tour or before they break up. I mean, this is the 40th anniversary of them as a band. I can't see them going too much longer. I mean, especially if Billy is in. I mean, he's recovered, but I mean, you never know. Maybe, hopefully, nothing comes back. But I mean, I don't know how much longer X is going to be able to go on. If you have the opportunity, catch them on this tour because they still play amazingly well. And these dudes are getting older, and this last couple of weeks with all of the deaths in the rock world that I've been noticing, it's like a lot of my favorites are going soon, and so I'm gonna, rather than say, well, I'm not gonna go see this old band because they're not like they used to be, they're just not gonna be as good as it would have been if I'd seen them in '88 or whatever. That may be true, but if I haven't seen them at all before, maybe even if I have, I'm gonna make it a point to go because these dudes are dying left and right, and I just don't want to have to miss anybody because of that. A friend of mine and I were joking the whole time we were going to yell stuff up at Exene Cervenka because she's an awesome singer, great front person. She was excellent that night. But apparently she's a little kooky on the internet, and she has like a YouTube channel, and she's into like conspiracy theories and this kind of weird stuff, and she's a 9/11 truther and all of this kind of stuff. And so we were contemplating just yelling out like, what about building 7, tower 7, and just trying to like provoke her by yelling up some weird conspiracy theory stuff. But then I was like, you know what? I don't want to do that because I don't want to piss her off. I don't want it to be a bad show. I mean, it would have been hilarious, but at the same time, like, I don't want to be that kind of a dick. And I thought my friend was going to do it, which would have been funny, and then I could have been, like, absolved of it because I didn't actually do it. But he didn't want to do it either because the show was so good, we just didn't want to, like, risk pissing her off by screaming at, what about Tower 7? Or, something like that. Or, Anyways, X was great. You have to see them if you get the opportunity.
Sex runs every hour.